Alright, welcome to Inspired Creation. This video is going to be all about meditation. I felt it would be important to make this video before, from here on out, we're probably going to start getting into a lot of the different knowledge and teachings, stuff that you should be coming across and, working your way through while you're becoming the seeker, and working your way through the maze. So we're going to start to get to all of that stuff in the next videos coming up here. But I felt it really important to talk about a big key in doing all of this, actually, in connecting. And for me, I found the most success in doing meditations. Other people, and maybe I will too in the future, but as for right now, meditations work the best. But other people find, things like astral projection and, other types of readings and numerology to get into. And there's lots of ways and things that you can do to help you get there. But no matter what, you're always going to need your quiet time to go within, right? This is really what meditation is, period. Before all this, I looked at meditation as, that might be nice to do, get some quiet time to yourself and think, but that's just not for me. It never was. I never tried meditation in my life until I started going through this. And, you saw while you're asleep, you probably look at it like I did, that, that's nice. These people are getting some nice little quiet time to themselves. Once in a while I do myself and I think anyways, so like, we never see much value in that probably, unless, something got you into it, but most likely it hasn't. So probably been like me, and you don't worry about it, don't think about it, you don't have time for it, etc., whatever. And when all of this started to happen to me, it just kind of instinctively became a priority to me. I kept, saying to people randomly that I talked to about things that I thought I wanted to start doing meditation, and there wasn't really too much leading me to it, like I said, you hear about things and whatever, but then, I started learning about more stuff like raising the Kundalini and things about the pineal gland and opening your third eye. I started to learn so many things and connecting other dots, like even things I saw before I really realized I was waking up. In the past, like I would watch some shows that, talk about, a lot of the greatest people throughout the course of history, and it could be in closer times like Einstein or a Tesla or somebody like that, or go a little further back to like a Da Vinci, or I forget the guy who came up with all the math, like besides Pythagoras, there's another, it's like a Hindu guy who did ridiculous things with math. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but so many people, and it goes so far back, and when you start learning about all these people and like paying attention to them and like what things that they said and things that they did, right, you start to notice a pattern, just like you notice with everything else, really. And the pattern that I started to notice between them was that they were all, whether they called it a meditation or not, they were all doing a form of meditation. I also started to notice that it seemed like they were using the same combination of things, to do this. So they were just calling it different stuff, and you don't hear these things about them commonly, so you have to learn about them, these people, from multiple sources and areas. But you'll come to find out about them, the things that they had written in their personal journals, or things like that, and people just knew about them, stuff that they did. It's like for example, one of them used to stare at this bowl of water that he had on the table, and would keep it off balance so that it always rocked and made that ripple effect in the water. And that was something kind of hypnotic that he could look at while he was doing it. And what was he really doing? Just having a quiet, peaceful time to himself to go within. And so, he's looking at this bowl of water with the ripples in it, and he's got this tone or something playing in the background that he's listening to. And then, he's having a quiet moment to himself, right, where he's reflecting, and he says, all of a sudden they could see, and they have these visions of, numbers, or, math, or, all kinds of things, so. And then I from another one of them, he liked to light a candle and stare at the flame flicker, while he listened to something. And again, having a moment to himself and quiet alone, and then being able to see and being shown things that typically he wouldn't see or wouldn't be shown, and he wouldn't know. And you can keep going down the line and seeing these same things. You have these ancient temples and stuff like that, they're built so acoustically sound that they're finding that it's better than some of the recording studios that we make music and stuff in these days. Like there's a very high purpose for the reasons of buildings and structures being made in these certain ways that have all these acoustical properties. There's so many. And so, like, again, it's connecting the dots of the knowledge, right? And, even nowadays, you got people making these really great things like the binaural beats and stuff like that, right? And it's because people have figured out, they've taken this knowledge, of sound frequency and what it does, and really how, most everything actually ends up comes from sound. Sound is knowledge. Sound is it's amazing the way all that connects. So people have figured out and follow the knowledge and how to use it, how to harness different frequencies, to basically activate things within you which are pretty normally dormant. So when I started seeing all the connections of that and started thinking about how I wanted to do meditation and stuff, that was exactly how I came about it. I wanted to do it in the way that Tesla did it. I wanted to do it in the way that Einstein did it. I wanted to do it in the ways that I was seeing these connections of these people in ancient cultures and times doing it, So it was the same thing. Except we're here in more modern times, so I used something I figured was more modern and maybe more finely tuned than trying something real primitive. So that was really what I did. I like using the binaural beats, and there's a couple of other sources that you can get that type of meditation music, really. But it's nice and easy to find. Obviously, you're right here on YouTube. You can just search it and you pop right up. And I really like using those. One of the greatest things that I really like about it is that it's not always the same. You can go up and down this scale of frequencies and use it basically to help open and clear your chakra system. So we're going to do some learning about all that too in the future, but right now I just want to get you going, if you haven't been, on doing your meditations and how to do them, because I found it so successful for me. I really, without it, I don't know if it's possible that I would have really made my connection and went further with more things, because for me that all came out of doing meditations. So let's just talk about how to do them, really, or how I found success in them anyways. And it was just that I followed the little blueprint for meditations that I was seeing, and did just that. So I did it a more modern way. I got it from Binaural Beats, was one of the first ones I was using for sure, so that I could get. The good thing about that being right on YouTube is that it gives you this visual to look at, because they always have something, and we'll learn how sometimes certain symbols, and you meditate on certain symbols, will unlock things for you and that's because the symbols are what their energy, and they quite literally harness information. Period. And sound if you come at it that way. It's really wild how they discovered all these things. Really, like people, we didn't invent this stuff, and you'll come across those quotes too, like about numbers and music and stuff. We didn't invent it; we discovered it, like, which means it was there, existing. And when you start learning about all that stuff, you can see, yeah, then no longer do you have to wonder how did these people come up with this shit. There's a very quite literal, easy way that they figured this stuff out. Um, and it all comes from this knowledge that it comes from a source that you can tap into. And it's incredibly doable for all of us. We are all capable of this. So in meditation, I like to use binaural beats or something similar to that. It gives you a good visual that you can give your soft gaze to, is what you want to do. And the soft gaze is, I don't know, a lot of people have seen before, at least. They had these pictures that used to be big, a while back, and now you rarely see them. But at first look, they're just a bunch of random paints and colors, and it just looks like a bunch of mess. And it's kind of pretty, it's nice, but it's just a bunch of mess. It doesn't look like anything, right? But if you stare at it and you focus and you let your eyes refocus, right? And you do that by giving it this soft gaze, like, it's hard to describe, but when you do it, you're going to know. And sometimes it takes just staring for a long time, and not thinking about anything. And really, that's how those pictures would work for most people. You used to see them at the mall and stuff at these little kiosks all the time, and now you don't see them anymore. And it's the same thing. You give them that soft gaze and stare at it until all of a sudden this three-dimensional picture pops out at you, right? Those things used to be all over the place. It's the same thing that you want to do with your meditation. You want to give this soft gaze into something that is quite literally a little hypnotic, because it kind of seems like this is the point of what you're trying to do, is you want to put your consciousness in a state it's in between. It's not just in your normal consciousness where you're awake and perceiving and seeing things, in this 3D manner. And you don't want to go like full subconscious, right, into where you're just running on autopilot. You want to be in, like, right in that line in between. So the point of your meditation really is to be calm and relax and go within and meet that point in the middle, right? And you can do that in the ways that we're talking about, right? But it just takes a little practice, and really, once you get it down, you end up not needing anything. You don't need to look at anything, and you don't need to listen to anything. You really don't even have to sit down in your lotus position or anything. Once you get it down, you'll find how meditation and great feeling meditation actually can happen and come to you while you're doing things, washing dishes or going for a walk or, etc. Don't do it while you're driving a car. Although sometimes you could feel it then, and it's tempting. You have to be like, nah, I'm driving a car right now. But until you get good at that, right, I suggest, using some good meditation techniques. So, like the binaural beats, it gives you something to look at. You give it that soft gaze, and things start to happen. And so sometimes, it'll be a symbol, and sometimes it'll be, other things that are morphing and changing. They make all kinds of different ones, and it's great. You can really tell that the people that put those together do it, and they know what they're doing. I appreciate them, and that's definitely give views for me every day. I like to do a meditation every day if I can. Sometimes I miss, and it sucks, but that's sometimes that's just how it is. But So you want to use that, give it your soft gaze, and it's just kind of letting your mind just go. You don't want to be thinking about too much at first, especially while you're trying to get into that zone. You want to just relax and try to let your mind just be as blank as possible. And then at the same time, you're listening to the music that they created, right? Which should be based all around certain frequencies. And we'll learn about that too. There's a certain scale of frequencies, right, that affect everything, not just us, but also us and our bodies in certain ways. Like you learn about the 432 hertz frequency, right, which is basically harmony with the planet. And what is the goal all the time is balance, harmony, right? And this is why that number on the scale particularly is so much more important than the other ones, although the other ones are very important too. They're all a part of it. But that 432 for us is, it's the perfect balance, harmony for us, for the planet, for, where we are right now. And we're trying to evolve from that, right? We want to, my guess and feeling really is that, we want to progress to where, the, maybe that common harmony zone would be higher, you know what I mean? And then maybe our collective consciousness and effectively everything would be greater at that time. And that's my guess on that. Maybe the harmony of this place is always going to be the 432 hertz frequency. And you will learn too how the powers that be around here decided to change the frequency that was being given out on the radios and TVs and everything to a 440 frequency, which, if you just think about it out of the gate without somebody trying to rationalize it or, make it acceptable to you, just think about what the possibility is, what would happen, how would that affect the majority, or if not all, of the living things and people on a planet if you start to constantly put out and change what went from the normal harmonic frequency to the bass that, you change that to something even slightly out of whack, right? What kind of effect do you think that would have on the natural beings, the people, the animals, the planet, anything, when you change this frequency that is, the typical frequency being broadcast, being put out from something that's in harmony to something that's a little bit out of whack, right? If you try to find any way to justify that to me, my first mind is going to be, it's a fuckery and you're trying to trick us. Because it doesn't add up to the way of things. So what are you doing? That's my thoughts on that. But we'll leave that alone for a minute. So, if you're looking through stuff, though, and you're doing a meditation, and you see something at 440 hertz, which probably you won't because people are, up to par that are making this stuff. But who knows, you might. My advice on that would be to leave that alone and stay away from that, because that hertz frequency is not even on the scale of importance, to be honest with you. And you'll only see that if you start to go through the math of music, which definitely you should, and I'll make a video about that too. Just definitely want to make sure that I have my full understandings on all the math ones and don't explain anything wrong at all. So until I'm really confident that I'm up to par on that, I won't be making that video. Until then, you can find them. They're all over the place. But I will do it eventually. So back to the topic here, you're giving your soft gaze and you're listening to whichever frequency you chose. Some of them even will take you through a scale. I love those meditations where they start you at a lower frequency, and it's clearing that chakra system, clearing that zone for you, and giving you time to get into your meditation. And as you are, it takes you up to the next hertz, and takes you up to the next, and take you up to the next. Now those are commonly very long meditation sessions. So if you're just starting, that's not going to probably be the one for you. But it is something that eventually you'll want to hit, at least once in a while, because then you can see how the different frequencies affect you. That really opened my eyes in meditation. The first time I did one of those, where it takes you here and then it jumps and then it jumps and then it jumps. I was sitting there in my meditation and in a really good space, and feeling it, and certain things started happening. We can start to discuss that too, but it'll probably be another video because it'll be long. I'm already at 20 minutes here. So you can clearly, as soon as it goes up to that next frequency and changes the tone in your ears, you'll literally feel something else in your body like start to tingle, vibrate, activate. You literally feel that, and some of them, when they get to them, will do that in your mind too. You can start to feel like where your pineal gland is. You'll start to feel that start to tingle and vibrate. Even your frontal lobes here, that's incredibly common for me, that those get to vibrate and pulsate. Now it's something. That's for sure. And it's a good feeling. It feels really good, and you can connect, and you get answers to everything. It's really amazing. So you're giving your soft gaze, things are happening, you're listening. Also important with the binaural beats, a good pair of headphones is important for that, because one of the things they're doing is they're feeding one tone into one ear and one into the other, and there's a whole science about that and how our biology works with that. And then when those two combine and hit your brain, it actually creates a whole third sound that is not what you would typically hear, say, if you just had it playing through the speakers and both your ears are hearing it, right? It's a little different. These are actually kind of like hacks into the mind, to be honest. People have figured out through all this knowledge how our brains and our bodies and everything, our senses, how they all actually function. And they're learning ways basically to hack in and to do, for what? You think for nothing? No, these people have been doing these things for as long as we know about, for a very important reason. And it's all about what I'm talking about: awakening, ascension, growth, expanding your mind, understanding things, having capabilities that typically you thought you didn't have. This you'll come to find out that while you were sleeping, you thought a lot of this stuff was crazy talk, conspiracy theory, this, that, all the other. And you come into learning all this stuff, you come to find out people have put more time, effort, energy, money, everything into all of these things than anything else, really. Like, it's actually, it's just like everything else. It is what it is, and we're taught everything backwards and upside down, man. All this stuff is put so much time and energy into, because it's real, because it's true. Think about, like, when they say, there's nothing to extraterrestrial life and this and that. That's so much nonsense. It's ridiculous. And then start to learn about how much time, effort, and money governments, kingdoms, whatever, depends what time frame you're talking about here, have put into all of this stuff. It's insane. And when you find out about it, if nothing else rung a bell for you, return the light on, you gotta know that the powers that be aren't spending all their time, energy, and money on something that is just a load of shit. So let's wake up to that fact first and foremost. We're sticking on the topic of the meditation. You Yeah, so that all helps the soft gaze, the listening to the binaural beats at the same time. Is very helpful to get into your lotus position. You've seen statues of this all over the place. Buddha, he's got his, legs crossed and, fingers, like this on your knees. It's just a nice balanced resting position. It also keeps your back up straight. You want that. You want to sit straight up because you're you're really in part of this too, and clearing the chakras while you are meditating. You're raising your kundalini, you're bringing up the energy through your chakra system, and it all kind of surrounds your spinal cord there. So you don't want to really be like slouching or doing this and that. You really want to sit up and make it a nice, straight, clear pathway. Also, breathing is incredibly important, and it's really important because breathing, quite literally, and how we breathe, it dictates all kinds of things, like your pulse and blood pressure, and how at ease you are and relaxed. So you think about it, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to like ultimate state of relaxation, right? So the most important thing in that is your breathing. If you think about it, right, if you're afraid or you're running away from something, or if you're fighting or whatever you're doing on that type of aspect, right, what's going on? You're breathing through your mouth like really heavy usually, like this, right? And you're taking the air in that way through that type of system, right? And if you notice, the things I was just talking about is all a lower frequency, a lower vibration. That's all down in the chakra system of survival mode, right? And so survival mode, it wants the most oxygen at once. Hurry up right now. And you take that in where through your mouth. It's got your blood pumping. It's got your every system going. It's working it up, right? And that in those situations, what happens? Adrenaline kicks in. You can kind of get some energy out of that, depending. That's all survival mode, right? And survival mode is great. Okay, we need survival mode, but right now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to be in the higher modes. We don't want to be in the low space of the chakra system, the low space of the frequency. We don't want to be in the beginning of survival mode. We want to be up in the higher of the more spiritual, intellectual, right? We want to be in a more sacred place, which is a calm, relaxed state. And so just like the mouth takes in oxygen away and does things, right? And it's these big gasps, right? And it changes what's going on in your body, and it can give you, energy and etc., right? So now we want to do the opposite. You want to breathe through the nose. You want to take that air in and nice deep, deep, because there's other things that you can learn too, and it starts to get into science and stuff real heavy, right? Where it's the way that the oxygen comes in your navel cavity and passage, right? And it actually, and I wish I could break it down better for you. For now, you're just gonna have to take what I can give you. But the oxygen coming into you like that, it connects better and activates things and gives better oxygen to parts of your brain, right? And so, especially if you take those really, really deep breaths in through the nose, that all the way until you can't suck in any more air, and maybe pause for a second and then let it back out, nice and calm. You do this a few times, right? And especially you might start noticing, after you've been doing this for a while, if you're in a place with better quality air, you have incredible feelings from that too. And I noticed that being at a couple of places, like a hospital and etc. Sometimes they have certain rooms where they pump oxygen into the room, because they want people in a better state, So air quality is a big thing. I've heard people say before that being in a less polluted land, or being on high altitudes of mountains, and getting that breathing in, with that better oxygen that's there that has a great effect on people too. But at the moment, I just got to take their word for it to be what it is, because I haven't been on a mountain, and I haven't really gone to some pristine place. I live in the United States. It just is what it is. But it's not bad. I'm doing just fine here. So, so you want that breathing, that calm, relaxed breathing in and out through the nose. You really don't want to breathe through your mouth at all, because you want the oxygen going up to your brain. You want it activating things up there, and you want the result of the taking air in and out through the nostrils and not through the mouth. You don't want to be your body going into survival mode at all. And taking big gasps of air in through the mouth does that. So we have our visual, we have our audio, we have the way that we take in our air, right? We have our position, right? And they talk about the good thing about lotus position is it crosses your legs, right? And part of that is just crossing parts of your body and crossing your how they say the right side of your brain tends to control this left side of your body, and the left side of your brain tends to control this right side of your body, right? And so you're crisscrossing part of it, right? Which now automatically, anytime you do that, right, and we don't think about it, we don't feel it or nothing, but anytime you do that, it changes some things in the brain. Your brain knows that this hand is over here, even though typically this side does that, and this is over here, even though typically this side does that, right? It's kind of just crossing things. It's making a little pathway here that helps. But like I said, once you get down and get going and get good at your meditation, you don't need to really do any of this. You'll be able to connect without it. But you'll still want to do it because it's great for you. It does a lot of things, and it can help you have visions and things and connections. And really, once you get a download, it's like it's almost like a drug. You're looking for more. Like, what else can you give me? Give me another one. But that's good. That's great. That's all a part of being the seeker and continuing to seek. Because guess what? It never ends. There's always education, learning, growing, never ends. We do that until the end of time, until we can't do it anymore. And that's why things will always expand and grow and become new and different and always change. The only thing that stays the same is that everything keeps changing. Why? Because infinite source needs things to continue to experience and to continue to know and learn, right? And after it's experienced everything, what else is there? Well, now we got to grow and we got to have change, because there needs to be something else. And that's how it will always be. So we got our visual, our audio, our taking in of the oxygen. We have our position. I'll tell you also something that I found that seemed to help, and actually just kind of came instinctively. I was already doing this and not really thinking about it at all, but I did notice it. And then as I got more and more into meditations, and learning more things about it, then I came across it was actually a thing and a recommended thing to do. So, that was pretty cool. And it's been like that a lot of this whole little journey so far. I've been already instinctively knowing and wanting and doing things that when I learn about them is what I'm supposed to be doing and is the way that things work. So that's pretty cool to see and watch that unfold for yourself too. So what that was is, while you're doing this, everything that we talked about, you also are you're going to put the tip of your tongue up on the roof of your mouth and make that, just let it rest there. And, just keep your mouth closed and just do it, while you're meditating. It's comfortable. It's not really uncomfortable at all. And like I said, I was doing it without even paying attention to it. Then I learned in some of the teachings I was, going over that it was actually a thing and it was recommended. And I forget why they said it was something about the connection between the roof and the mouth and the tongue. I forget what they say it does. But since I was already instinctively doing it during meditations and then came across it was talking about it, I've just been still doing it. So because I've been having successes with meditation, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's how I feel. So they talk about keeping the tip of your tongue pressed up against the roof of your mouth. And also another thing is, even though so if you're staring at the screen that comes up, the picture that they're giving you on whatever meditation you're doing, obviously your eyes will be open during that. But once that soft gaze really kicks in and the things on the screen start changing and stuff for you and whatever, right? Eventually your eyes will get a little tired, like, because they're staring at this, and they want to blink and they want to, close. But you just kind of go with that feeling and just let your eyes close, right? And it's just seeding in that relaxed moment of going within, right? And oftentimes, this is right when something will start to happen for you. Sometimes you might have to sit in meditation and you're quiet a little more, and sometimes things won't happen for you at all. And the best advice I have for you on that is when you're doing a meditation and you're 15, 20 minutes in or something, or maybe not even that long, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and you're finding that nothing's happening for you really, you're not connecting, you're not getting that feeling or emotion or anything, right? And I would say, especially if you've got stuff to do, then just call it a wrap, and just go about your business and maybe come back to a meditation later. Because if your energy just isn't right now for anything, then why waste your time, right? So I've done that. I've had really short meditations where it just wasn't getting me where I needed to go. And so I just kind of got up from it and went about my business. It's the same thing as when you're pondering a question or a problem that you don't understand yet. You just walk away from it for a little while and come back, right? So, otherwise, I found, doing these meditations that moment, not only do things start to change and you see stuff differently just by giving your soft gaze to that, but, then at that moment when your eyes shut, that's when things really start to happen. And for me, it seemed to be like a progression, and it very well could have to do with, like, I was changing my meditations every night. So I would do something different, I'd start on a low on the hertz, lower on the scale, and we'll go over what those numbers all are, right? And then, like, each night I would do a different one and kind of go up higher and higher and stuff, because I wanted to see what kind of effect or difference that had, I was really kind of like experimenting, trying to see, if there's certain ones that work better than others or what, right? And I came to find out, man, that would take years of really charting and documenting, because there's so many different things that you can do, different hertz, different frequencies, different, just there's a lot. I don't want to waste time talking about it. So the success that I had was actually a progression like that, and it kind of seemed like that. I would often see this black screen would pop up. It kind of looked like a TV that turned off. So I would see this black screen, and it would come closer and go further and come closer and go further, right? And, like, you see, my eyes were closed, so, like, everything is dark, everything is black, right? But the screen was, like, super jet black, right? There's definitely a difference between this and everything around it, right? And so that's how it kind of, like, it started. It was just like that. I was just seeing this black screen. I really didn't know what to think about it, and to the one person that I was talking to about these things during that time, we didn't even talk about it, because I didn't know what to make of it, if anything, right? But it would do that, though. It would come closer and go further and come closer and go further, and it was kind of strange. Occasionally it would even kind of be like you're entering it, but then it would go right back out, and so this could have also been just because it was so new to me, and stuff kind of, it freaks you out a little bit. And if that thought ever creeps into your mind, it takes you right out of where you're trying to be. So you got to get comfortable and get used to doing this. It's the same thing if you start trying to have lucid dreams and astral project and stuff like that. You got to get very comfortable with it, because the moment that fear or that doubt or that anxiety pops into you, you're done.